Hello, not so average travelers.
Hi, Not So Average Travelers. It's Olivia.
It's Eric.
We are back home
We're in the recording studio again.
after 2 weeks of travel. Holy cow.
What a wild whirlwind of 2 weeks.
I mean, it really was. The goal of our chat today is kind of to tell you what didn't work. We had a lot of things that did work.
This is our end of the trip recap.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know, we left from the US and went to Paris for, I think we were there for a total of 6 days. And then we took a train from Paris down to Marseille. And then we jumped on a 7-day MSC cruise all around the Western Mediterranean. First off, loved it.
It was delightful.
Loved all the ports. It was fantastic. And then from the cruise, we got back off the ship and took the train back to Paris, where we stayed the night, and then got on the plane and came home.
So it felt like the flight home was a lot longer than the flight there.
I mean, it did say it was supposed to be like an extra hour and a half, but it sure felt longer than that. And maybe that's the difference of like when we left, like, so our flight to Paris left from Dallas Fort Worth, which Eric has status with American Airlines, which is great. We absolutely love this because we travel so much for
Tip
work.
the hat.
So we got to go into their flagship lounge. Fantastic. Like that, we were there for 2 hours. Highly recommend it.
In between Salt Lake and the flight out of DFW.
That was great. But so the flight that we left Dallas to Paris was roughly, 7 o'clock-ish?
Something like that, yeah.
Like, it was later in the evening. So maybe that's why it didn't feel like it was so long, because we knew
it was actually overnight.
Yeah, we're going to have a meal, we're going to take a nap, and then we're going to wake up in Paris. It's going to be fine.
None of that happened.
Best laid intentions. We did not fall asleep. I think we took like little cat naps, but they weren't like anything.
There was no long
REM
naps,
sleep at
no
all.
long sleep. It was
like I woke up a couple times to like my travel pillow wraps around my neck, right? Not like the standard like back on your neck, but it wraps around my neck. And I woke up a couple times because I was like drooling like down in my pillow, which is super gross, but that's what happened. That's what woke me up. So yeah, that was a little bit problematic by the time we got to Paris, but oh well, we were in Paris, so we didn't really care. The other thing I will say, as far as the flight goes, so we booked economy plus. Like premium economy seats, excuse me. And I will say for that long term, well worth the money we paid for them versus the first class. So the first class is that flagship style where like your individual seat can fully lay flat. That's fantastic if that's what you want to pay for. I did not want to spend all of our money on
we had to make choices.
We had to make choices, and that was a choice we made not to do that. But the premium economy is very similar to a standard domestic first class seat. So, I mean, it was very comfortable for the like 9.5 hours that we went from Dallas to Paris. So
absolutely.
Anyway, so I have zero complaints in that regards. But yeah, we got to Paris and found our Disney bus.
That was a long walk through CDG, let me tell you.
That we
Charles de Gaulle. Because you go from, they've got multiple terminals, and you basically walk through all 4 of them to get from one end out to where the buses are.
So he's gonna be mad at me. I found out afterwards that apparently there was a bus we could have taken to that other terminal.
Which is
standard for us, like learning as we go. Oh, there was a bus for that? Okay, well we walked. Oh well.
But the signs didn't really
say that.
Didn't really say that.
Yeah, it was really confusing after we got our luggage and things, which that went pretty fast, like getting through customs and stuff. That was a whole experience, but it was fun. Got stamps in our passport. Whatever. Got our stuff, walked our tired bodies to try and find a Disney bus, and thank goodness I stopped at like another international terminal where like the train station was and all this other stuff, and I was like, there's a bunch of people in red vests that were there for like tour pickups. And I was like, where's the Disney thing? And she goes, oh, you go down this hallway to the left and the left. I was like, oh, first off, thank you for speaking English. Like, thank you. Because at this point, we were like full culture shock, I think. Right? Like,
I don't know if it was full culture shock, but it was definitely interesting to have to listen and try to understand what you were being told.
yeah, I wasn't understanding any of it. But again, also very tired. So,
I think it would have been fine if we weren't up for 24 hours almost straight. So
yeah. But anyway, we got on our Disney bus. We made it just in time for the last bus to leave, which was great. And then very, very reminiscent to the old Magical Express.
it was nice.
Except for it wasn't like they didn't have videos playing and stuff like that. So
Yeah, there was no Mickey cartoons at
Yeah.
all. So
no, there was like Disney music playing, and then there was times where it wasn't Disney music, but at least they kind of interlooped some of that, so that was kind of nice. But yeah, so we took the transportation to the hotels, had a good time, hung out in the park for a little while. What did we learn at the Disneyland Paris hotel? Anything that we were like, oh, check-in. Check-in is where we were like, again, when we first got there, we're like trying to walk in with our luggage like you do when you arrive at a hotel, right? You take your bags and you try and walk through the front door.
they wouldn't let us in the front door.
They were like aggressive about the fact that they're like, no. Like you have to leave your bags with the bellhop right here and then you go through security. Like we had to go through full security, which after knowing the reason why makes total sense because you are literally in the park.
You
at
are
that
in the
point.
park at that hotel, and it
Yeah.
is really cool.
Fully.
Because as you walk out, the turnstiles to get into Main Street are right
They're right
there.
there. Super convenient. Would highly recommend it. Would stay there again 100%, especially if I had the money for it.
It definitely was reminiscent of the California Lodge, Grand California.
Yeah. Most people liken it to the Grand Floridian, but
No, I'm saying, but Grand Floridian doesn't have that direct
Gotcha.
access to the gate, whereas Grand California
that's true. You have
does.
access
You
to
literally
that
walk
adventure.
out and you're in California Adventure. That was the same experience.
That's true. I get you what you're saying on that one. So yeah, so that was a little like once we got that figured out, and also you don't think that you can arrive at 11 o'clock thinking that you could maybe check into your hotel.
They
is
are hard and fast on that
3
2
o'clock. No ifs, ands, or buts. They don't care if you're a VIP, if you're any of that. It's 3 o'clock. And actually, they say like when you're in the parks, the best time to go stand in line for rides is at 3 o'clock because everyone goes back to get to their hotel for the check-in.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think we made it. We walked around the park for a little while. I think we made it until about like 2-ish, 1:30,
yeah.
2 o'clock, and then we had to just go back and
We
sit
were
in the hotel.
zombied by that point.
Yeah, we had to go back and sit in the hotel for a little while in the lobby, which again, fantastic. We weren't the only people who were like just full out on a couch trying to stay awake. So that was that was a learning experience.
It was
for
a
that
learning
one.
experience because normally, even with the Disney parks, you can kind of like maybe check in early.
Yeah, you can ask.
You can ask.
Mhm.
This, though, it was definitely a hard festival.
Yeah.
But that does bring up the other fact that when you're getting in on, and I don't know why we did this, and normally we don't, but when you're getting in, don't set up an excursion. Don't set up an event or a dinner or anything on that first night.
You're gonna miss it.
You're gonna miss it. The jet lag hit us, exhaustion hit us. We actually missed one of our shows, which we were really excited for.
Yeah,
But-
I think we talked about we were planning on going to the Moulin Rouge, and the plan was to go on that Saturday that we arrived, figuring that we'd sleep on the plane.
But yeah,
Didn't do it.
definitely don't take that into consideration because you can't guarantee the sleep.
Yeah.
We tried though, but we ended up going up to the room, passed out.
Passed
Woke
out hardcore.
Woke up at what, midnight, 1 o'clock?
No, we woke up at 10, and then we're like, well, do we just like do an Uber Eats situation? Like, I'm hungry now. Like, what do we have? Like, at the hotel, what's in the mini bar was included, so that was great. There was like some snacks and stuff, and I'm like, I'm snacked out. Like, I need some food, like some actual sustenance. And then we're looking around. I was like, well, it says we can like Uber Eats McDonald's, and then we're looking at it and we're like, oh, it's like a mile away in the Disney Village, and we're like, and it's open till 1 a.m. So we're like, all right, let's wake up and walk ourselves to McDonald's, which we did.
And yeah, it was definitely, and I know we talked about this a little bit on the
One of the
first
videos,
recap,
yeah.
but it definitely, you got to take that into consideration. Quick food that day and no excursions
Yeah.
or no shows on that first night out because
Yeah.
can't guarantee.
And we had an excursion planned or a tour planned Sunday morning. Like we had to be there at 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock, 11 a.m.
That was one of my favorite tours though.
It was one of our like the best tours we did the entire trip, and I'm so glad that we did it. But being like after we woke up at 10, walked our happy butts over to McDonald's, walked back to eat it, like, and then we watched a movie. We figured out how to like cast our shows onto the TV. So we watched a movie, and then it was like what 3 a.m. where we're like, we probably ought to try and at least like take a nap so we could function the next day. And I'm really glad we did that because even like the train, we knew it was going to take at least an hour to get from Disneyland Paris back into Paris Center, like Paris proper, and that's about what it took. And had we tried to do that the night before to go with Moulin Rouge, we both would have been asleep on the train, not knowing what's happening. We probably would have been robbed. We would have been like, who knows? Like, we would have ended up at some train station and not known.
But I do gotta say that the metro and the train was actually pretty easy once we got a hold of it, and once we got our passes. We did a week-long pass. So we were able to go pretty much anywhere we needed to. And the train was relatively quick into Paris.
It was.
We did have to make 2 transfers, so we learned how to transfer. But in all, I would totally do that again.
Yeah,
instead of rent a car or anything else like that.
Because it was going to be at least a minimum of 100 euros to get back and forth from
an Uber.
Yeah, Uber to back and forth to Disneyland Paris and then back into the city. And so that was going to be 200 euros round trip, which is roughly $210. Like that's not smart.
Per trip, and we had 3 or 4 trips planned.
Yeah.
Whereas the bus or the train, where we had access to all parts of it, we had the Ultra Pass or whatever.
We paid 97 euros for the
$97 for both of us.
Yeah,
so
for the 2 of us.
It was just a no-brainer.
Yeah, really. It was super easy. So anyway, we learned how to do that. That's something new. Living out here, we don't do that.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't do public transportation.
We live out in the country, so. But it was definitely something that we did learn. I would totally do that again.
Yeah, and then I don't think there was anything else that other than we were food-wise, as far as when you're planning your meals. If you don't make reservations ahead of time, you're pretty well okay to get in, but you're kind of limited as far as options, and you're waiting a pretty long time to get in. Most of the restaurants were buffets, which is not normally something that personally I'm a fan of, or that I go out of my way to be like, hey, let's go to a buffet, just because we don't, much to what people would think, we don't eat a whole lot. So it doesn't make sense for us to pay for a buffet, but that's what most of the meals were.
But buffet was different.
It was totally different.
So it's not like a Royal Corral or or anything else like that, Golden Corral or 30 Roamers, whatever buffet you venture towards. But it was a few items out. You had a planned dinner essentially, but it was all you can enjoy.
Yeah, all you care to enjoy, with desserts and stuff included, and your drinks were included with that too, which worked out. I think we did one night at our hotel, and it was actually pretty tasty. It was,
I do have to say that you need to plan time, because it is an event.
Yes.
And it is not quick.
No. That's the Parisian way, though. That is, they don't rush you. It is an event. Mealtime is an event.
Mealtime is an event. Enjoy the time, enjoy the conversation. Go on your merry way after the fact.
Correct. And that took a little bit of getting used to, because we're so used to all right, we're done.
Let's and out 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then on to the next thing.
Yeah. So that was a little different. But another fail, again, we're going to talk about our fails in this, was when we took our train, planned, pre-ticketed, express train from Paris to
Bullet train was so cool.
It was really cool. And I had asked our friends that we were visiting with in Paris. I was like, okay, we've never done this type of training before. How does this work? And she goes, well, you just find your coach number and then you go and sit down on your seat. And we're like, okay. She goes, it's really easy. Mind you, we've never done this before. We get down there, it's not really easy. Also, you can't check in until like 30 minutes
before.
Prior. So that's weird for us also, thinking that we have to be there early for whatever. We did not have to be there that early. Yes, so the first train that we get on, we are like looking at all the things, trying to figure out where our coach is. Mind you, we are coach number 2. So we're looking at all the signs, and from what I can tell, it's going to be this spot. It was not. It was not that spot. So we got on the wrong coach with not really any way to like change, because at that point the train is going. Like the train stops at the station for 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to get your bags, get on the train, get on the train, and it's gone. That, again, new for us. Not.
It took, at that 10 minutes, we got basically all 4 of our bags on.
Yeah.
And then we're like, I looked around, I'm like, we're not on the right train. And Olivia says, we're on the right train. We're not on the right car.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do we get to the right car? She's like, it's up there.
Yeah, we think. But there's not enough time. Like if one of us was to have gotten out and gone and sat in where we were supposed to, the other person would have been like stuck with all of our bags until, as far as I knew, we didn't have any stops. Apparently we did have some stops, but they were like, the first stop was an hour and a half away. And so when they came to take our tickets and stuff, we're sitting in this spot, like, again,
the wrong spot.
Wrong spot, wrong seats. Like, okay, where are we? What happened? What did we do wrong? With all of our bags sitting in front of us, which again is normally a no-no. You're not supposed to do that. But we were in an accessible seat area. Mind you, there was nobody who was accessible that needed it. We absolutely would have left had that been the case. We would have moved and found somewhere else. But then when they got to when they came to scan our tickets, first person did not speak any English. Again, fine, that's not their job to. We tried to explain, I think we're in the wrong spot. She goes, literally that, finger up, left for about 20 minutes and came back with someone who did speak very minimal English, but at least he could tell us, just stay put, you're fine.
So we did.
We stayed put. And then when we got to the first stop and people started coming on, we're like, well, do you want to move and try and find it? And he goes, they told us to stay put, so we're staying put. But people would look at us like, we know you're not in the right spot. You don't belong here. Like, one of these things is not like the other, and that's us. Like, yeah, but we made it. We made it to Marseille.
We did make it.
Made it.
We made it to the train station.
Made it to the train station. Made it to the port.
Got our Uber. The port was very interesting. I think we covered that in an earlier episode. But, yeah, plan your ports correctly.
Yeah.
That's work with your travel agent. Understand what those ports look like. Get a port map of it. Because if something happens and you have to walk, some of those ports are not walkable.
No. Like, if we would have actually had to walk, which was very much a likely situation, like we were out of the car ready to walk, it was going to be at least at 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It was a couple miles to be able to get to where we needed to go with all of our bags. So that is also why they tell you to, like, pack light. Like, don't take a bunch of stuff with you, because if you have to move with it, and most people in Europe tend to, like, they just have a carry-on size bag and they're on the metro with it, or they're going wherever. Like, that's... They don't overpack like we do. But we also overpacked because it was cold.
And it was warm.
And it was warm. And it was cold again.
Yeah, there was no way to understand what to pack for without being there.
Yeah.
Even all the research we did going up to the trip, we knew it was going to be in the 40s to the 50s in some locations. But even then, it blew out that 50.
We knew it was possible to be 60s. But the day that it was 60, it was rainy. So it's, again, you have to kind of...
Definitely got a plan for it.
Got a plan for it. So that's why we brought a lot of things. Again, we're not average size people, so our clothes are not average size either. So it's a little bit harder to shrink them down to fit into a carry-on for a 2-week vacation. It just doesn't happen for us. So, but we made do, and it worked. I mean, it worked out okay. I mean, Teamwork makes the dream work. Made the vacation work.
Go team!
Woohoo! One thing that, as far as like ask your travel agent too, didn't know, learned as a travel agent that this was a possibility and an option. The cruise we were on, we embarked and disembarked in Marseille. We did not have to. There was the possibility we could have gotten on in Rome, we could have gotten on in Valencia, we could have gotten on at any of those other ports that were visited. And that was something different that I think we've talked about before, that people were getting on and off the ship at every port that we went to. So that's something that, just do the research, because it may be less expensive for you to fly out of one
country
versus another, or for us it made sense to go out of Paris, so that's what we went to, out of France. So yeah, that was something we learned. And then I think even just on the way home, like taking the train back after the cruise was fine. We got in the right spot, got in the right train.
We learned.
And
used applied knowledge.
We did. And I think that was the biggest thing. Like, that's what your vacation should teach you something. And you like, whether it's about yourself and like the philosophy behind life and whatnot and how you want to live it. But also, and now we know how to do metros. We know how to do trains.
We also know that tours are going to be in multi-language.
Yes. Be prepared for that.
Very seldom. I think we had one that was only English.
Mm-hmm.
All the other tours had either English and Spanish, English and French. I think it was mostly English and French.
Yeah.
Was
the main.
The pairing that we were in. But I know that when you're looking at that, try to understand that if they don't have enough people in your language, they will cancel the cruise. I mean, not cancel the cruise, but cancel the excursion.
Yeah, we had 2 cancel on us that we had to, not necessarily scramble, we had time to figure out what else we wanted to do, but I don't feel like we missed out on anything. Like, other than when we went to Livorno, we didn't get to go to Pisa because there wasn't enough people speaking English that were taking that tour.
So there was an 8-hour tour.
Yes.
Because originally we had signed up for a 4-hour tour. And there weren't enough people on the 4-hour tour to go, but there were on the 8-hour tour. And after going through Rome for 8 hours, both of us were like, I don't know if I could do another 8 hours.
yeah. That was a choice for ourselves. And then the tour that we did decide to go on, it was a little bit more than 4 hours, but it went through the canals of Livorno, which is something I didn't know existed. And I'm glad that we did that one, because we learned something new with that and got more in-depth history of Livorno versus Pisa.
Yeah, I think out of everything, the thing that I learned the most out of this trip and just I took away from the experience was how different the rest of the world is from what we're used to. And it's not a bad thing, but it's very different. It's a great thing,
actually.
So, even the way that they do the meals, like we said, it's an experience. The way that they look at culture, everyone looks at culture as something that you should know. Everyone looks at history as something we don't want to repeat. Correct. Everything that we went through and talked about and saw was much older than I can even comprehend. Even Correct. Though I know the dates, it was still hard to see that building has been standing there for that long.
Correct.
So that's one thing that I took away from it, the learning that I took from that.
Yeah. And by no means is that a political stance or anything to that extent. It's just fact. Like, they definitely appreciate, and it was fun to see it from his eyes and from his perspective, since I had seen some of those things before and had that experience. But just to have, going into some of the cathedrals, going into some of these sacred places that were not super religious people either. I mean, so to have that, this is the reason why this happened, or this is the reason why this church is here and why people believe certain things as far as this goes, it really helps to teach you tolerance and acceptance and understanding to have that knowledge. So
yeah. So
all in all, great vacation, super happy we did it. 2 weeks was a long time to be away, but I'm not mad at it. So glad we did it. Ate way too many chocolate croissants.
She did.
I'm also not mad about that either.
I didn't eat that many chocolate croissants.
They're so delicious. They're so good.
I ate a lot of Nutella. The fact that was a staple was delightful.
I also have to say that when we were at the airport on the way back, like, we were in the international terminal, we'd gone through security, which, again, learning experience. Please plan ahead for that, because you needed it. We have TSA pre-check here in America. They do not have that overseas. So you are going through the line, you are taking your laptop out of your bag, didn't have to take your shoes off, but you had to take all your stuff out of your bag basically and be prepared for that. So the lines were very long. So we had to be patient in that regard after we'd walked through the terminal to get to where we were supposed to go again. So
that was such a disaster.
That
I'm
was
like,
a
no, we have to
disaster.
go again. There's another line.
and then there was another line, and then there was another line after that. But then we finally stopped to eat breakfast. We stopped at Paul's to get croissants, and then I was like, I'm gonna just go over to Starbucks and get a coffee because Paul's was taking too long, and so went to Starbucks to get a coffee, and she was like, well, do you want it, is it takeaway or is it for here? And I was like, looking around, not seeing spots, like, why is this a thing? But again, forgetting I'm still in Paris. People stay and drink. So I was like, well, I'm going to do a takeaway. And then a couple was leaving, and I was like, all right, can we have this spot? And I sat down, and right as I was finishing my coffee, the guy, like a gentleman, came up and goes, you did takeaway. You're not supposed to be sitting here. And I was like, sorry, so sorry. Picked up our stuff and we left. I was like, whoa, whoops. How many times has it ever happened to you in the US? Never. Never ever. You get it for takeaway because it's going to be takeaway. Everything is takeaway. They don't have like reusable cups that they're like, please leave this in here. That doesn't happen. So again,
It happens everywhere there, though.
everywhere. So again, learning experience. And then we had to go through immigration to get out. So we're like, at least by that point I had some food and I was a little bit more like,
It's a little less hangry.
a little less angry, a little bit able to like handle like, all right, let's just get through here. We'll be okay.
But staying at the hotel that was attached to the airport, that is a win every time.
Yeah, I would stay there again. And if don't follow along with our stories, please look it up. Follow me on Instagram, Not So Average Vacations, because we did a reel on that one, and it's a really cool hotel. It's shaped like football, and apparently that's supposed to help with like noise reduction. I heard nothing. We were at the airport. Open up the window and you could literally see the airplanes right there, and heard nothing.
And there was trains going
There was
underneath.
trains going underneath us, like nothing. Didn't
Yeah.
hear the traffic outside either because there was a drop off like 4 stories below us. Nothing. When we're in Manhattan, I hear everything. So,
Good old Manhattan.
any other major city, all the car noise, all the everything. Heard nothing. It was great. And that was the biggest bed I think I've ever seen. Like
It was double,
it was
double
delightful.
queen or something like that. It was wild.
It was awesome. I was like, we might need one of these. But anyway, yeah. Anything else you have to add for our
No,
viewers
that's
this week?
That is we went through a lot of recapping.
Yeah, we did. And there'll be more. There'll definitely be little videos and stuff that we post, so please follow along, subscribe. We'd love to hear comments or
We did
questions.
start up the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, we started pushing everything out there.
Yeah. So, yeah, on to the next adventure.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
All right, thanks guys. Bye.
Bye.